He said, "Excuse me," when he reached past me in the fridge. Not in a mean way, not cold, just careful, like I was a stranger he didn't want to bump into.
Politeness can be love's last disguise. When people stop reaching for each other, they start navigating around each other.
In the beginning, everything between us felt unplanned in a good way. We'd stay outside too long because we didn't want to end the night, even when the air got sharp and our fingers went numb. He'd walk me to my car and keep talking with his hand still on the door handle, like letting go was a small loss. His apartment was always too warm. Old building heat that you couldn't control. The windows would fog up, and he'd draw shapes in the condensation while I laughed. It was stupid, small, perfect. He kept a soft lamp on in the corner instead of using the overhead light. He said he hated interrogation lighting. I felt safe there. Not the dramatic kind of safe, just like my shoulders remembered how to drop.
Early love often feels like permission. Permission to be unguarded. Permission to be ordinary without being ignored.
He noticed things. The way I pulled my sleeves over my hands when I was thinking. The way I always rinsed the mug before putting it in the sink. He'd catch me doing it and smile like he'd found something tender. We didn't text all day like teenagers. We didn't have to. But when my phone buzzed, it was him, something small, almost pointless. Walked past the bakery. Smelled like cinnamon. Train was late. I thought about your face when you get impatient. Or just a photo of the sky from his parking lot. The clouds stretched thin like bruises. At night, he'd ask questions that didn't feel like tests. What part of your day did you keep replaying? What did you pretend didn't bother you? And I'd answer, because he made it feel like answering mattered.
Connection isn't built on grand gestures. It's built on the quiet expectation that someone will come back for the parts of you usually leave unattended.
When we moved in together, it wasn't rushed. It felt natural, like we were already living in each other's spaces anyway. His hoodie at my place, my hair tie on his nightstand, my shampoo slowly replacing his. Our first week in the new apartment, we ate on the floor because the couch hadn't arrived yet. The takeout containers were balanced on a moving box labeled kitchen, and he kept feeding me pieces of his meal like it was nothing. I remember the light from the street lamp outside. It came through the blinds in thin orange lines and cut across his face. He looked older like that, softer, real. He leaned his head against my shoulder and said, almost like he was admitting it, "This feels right." I believed him. The shift didn't start with a fight. It started with scheduling. "Can we do dinner tomorrow instead? I have an early meeting. I'm just tired." At first, I didn't mind. We were adults. We had responsibilities. Love didn't have to be constant to be real. But there's a difference between space and absence. And ours started feeling organized. The apartment changed. Not physically, but the way it sounded. In the beginning, it had noise, music from his phone while he cooked, the kettle whistling, him calling my name from the other room just to ask something unnecessary. Later, it became quiet in a different way. Not peaceful quiet, avoidant quiet. The TV filled the evenings. Not because we wanted it, because it kept us from having to talk. He'd watch with his laptop open, answering emails. I'd scroll beside him, pretending I wasn't waiting for him to look up. The lamp was still on, the same warm glow in the corner, but it started to feel like set dressing. Like we were keeping the lighting romantic out of habit, even when nothing romantic was happening in it.
Some couples don't grow apart loudly. They grow efficient. They become a system that runs smoothly until you realize it's running without warmth. People think distance looks like anger. Most of the time, it looks like multitasking, like everyone is technically present, but no one is emotionally available.
He became considerate in a way that didn't feel like him. "Do you need the bathroom? Are you using this? Just letting you know I'll be late." He used to tell me stories, unnecessary details, impressions, the way something made him feel. Now he gave me updates. Efficient, clean. One night, I realized we were saying thank you a lot. "Thanks for grabbing that." "Thanks. Thank you." I heard my own voice do it, too, bright, polite, controlled. Like if I stayed pleasant enough, I wouldn't have to admit what I was starting to feel.
Politeness is often a boundary disguised as kindness. When intimacy starts to feel risky, people replace it with manners. Keeps everything calm. It also keeps everything far.
I tried quietly, not with big talks, with little invitations. I'd sit closer on the couch. He'd shift a little, not away, just not toward me. I'd tell him something about my day that wasn't just facts, something with a pulse. He'd listen, nod, say, "That's crazy," and then look back at his screen. I started noticing how often he ended conversations with a period. Yeah, Okay, no follow-up, no curiosity, no, tell me more. And I started doing it back because rejection, even gentle rejection, teaches you what not to reach for.
Mutual withdrawal can look like mutual peace. Two people can agree not to ask for more and call it stability, but what they're really doing is shrinking the relationship until it fits inside what feels safe.
We still kissed. Quick ones, soft ones, the kind you could do without thinking. Sometimes he'd kiss my temple while I was loading the dishwasher and say, love you. I'd say it back. And even then, a small part of me would wonder if we were saying it the way you say, drive safe, meaning it, but not feeling it. There was one night I almost said something. We were in bed, the room lit faintly by his phone on the nightstand. He was scrolling, his thumb moving in that slow, mindless way. I turned toward him and whispered, do you ever feel like we don't really talk anymore? He didn't look up. He just exhaled, like he'd been asked to do a chore. We talk, he said. We're fine. Fine. That word landed between us like a closed door. So I nodded, and I let him be right.
Fine is a tranquilizer word. It's not meant to describe reality. It's meant to end the conversation before it becomes dangerous.
After that, I stopped bringing it up. Not because it didn't matter, because I could feel how little space there was for it. We got good at being gentle with each other. We stopped interrupting, stopped disagreeing, stopped asking questions that might lead somewhere messy. I watched us become well-behaved. And that's the part that scared me the most. How easy it was to look like a healthy couple when you're just avoiding the truth with good manners. The night it really started to show, how far we drifted was small. Almost nothing. It was late, past midnight. The apartment was quiet in that heavy way it gets when the city outside finally slows down. The kitchen light was off, just the warm lamp in the living room, throwing a soft amber across the hallway. I was standing by the sink, rinsing a glass I hadn't finished. I heard his footsteps behind me, slow and careful. He didn't wrap his arms around my waist like he used to. He didn't kiss my shoulder. He just hovered a second, like he was deciding how to move around me. Then, very softly, he said, sorry, can I just? And he slipped past me to open the fridge. I moved automatically, making room, like I did at work when someone needed to get by in a narrow hallway. Yeah, of course, I said. Sorry. We both apologized for existing in the same space. And when he took the water bottle out, he looked at me with that polite half smile and said, thanks. I stood there holding the glass under running water that didn't need to be running anymore, because I realized something I didn't want to realize. We weren't quiet because we were peaceful. We were quiet because we were careful.
That's when love turns into etiquette. When you start treating your partner like someone you shouldn't disturb. When their presence stops feeling like home and starts feeling like a hallway you have to pass through without touching the walls.
After that night at the fridge, I started noticing how often we moved like that, two careful bodies sharing a small space. In the mornings, he'd wake up before me. The mattress would shift, then settle. The bathroom door would click shut softly, like he was trying not to leave evidence that he existed. When he made coffee, he stopped using my mug. He didn't say anything about it. He just reached past it every time, like it belonged to someone else. If I walked into the kitchen while he was there, we'd both do that tiny shuffle, the polite choreography. Sorry, my bad. You're good. We were always good. I tried to tell myself it was adulthood. That comfort looks like this. That maybe this is what happens when you live together long enough. But comfort didn't used to feel like being managed. One night he asked, can you keep it down a little? When I was washing dishes. It wasn't rude. He was tired. I understood. I turned the faucet lower, set the plates down gently, like I was in someone else's home. Then he said, thank you, from the couch. Not in a sweet way, in a relieved way, like the problem had been handled. Something in me went still, because I realized I was learning how not to be inconvenient. The realization didn't come with tears. It came with a sound. He was in the bedroom with the door half closed, on a work call. I wasn't trying to listen. I was just walking past with laundry, barefoot on the cool hallway floor, and I heard him laugh. Not the small exhale he gave me when I said something mildly funny. Not the of acknowledgement. A real laugh, full, loose, almost boyish. The kind that made him sound like himself. He said, no, I get it. I get it. Then softer, that's really good. His voice had warmth in it, attention, a kind of leaning forward you could hear. I stood there with the laundry basket in my hands, just outside the doorway, and waited for him to notice me. He didn't. I wasn't jealous of the person on the call. I didn't even know who it was. I just felt this quiet, heavy recognition. He still had that version of him, He just wasn't bringing it home anymore. When he got off the phone, he stepped into the hallway and saw me. "Oh, hey," he said, like he'd forgotten I was in the apartment. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. "Laundry night?" "Yeah," I said. He nodded once. "Cool." Then he added, after a beat, "Sorry if I was loud." And I heard myself say it light, automatic. "No, you're fine." "Fine." Again. I walked into the living room and sat down. The lamp in the corner made everything look soft. His water glass cast a small shadow on the coffee table. The TV was paused on a scene I wasn't watching. He sat on the opposite end of the couch, not far, but not near. His knee bounced a little like he had extra energy he didn't know where to put. He picked up the remote, clicked the movie back on, and said, "You good?" Not, "How are you?" Not, "What's on your mind?" Just, "You good?" The way you ask a coworker when you pass them in a hallway. I said yes. And the worst part was, I meant it. Not because I was okay, because I didn't have the strength to explain what not okay would even require.
Polite silence isn't emptiness. It's a decision, usually unconscious, to keep everything smooth, to keep the relationship from asking anything of you. That's one of the most disorienting moments in a long relationship, the realization that the person didn't lose their softness. They didn't become incapable of care. They simply stopped offering it to you, not out of cruelty, out of containment, out of habit, out of the way we ration ourselves when intimacy starts to feel like demand. When love turns into polite silence, the internal conflict isn't, should I leave? It's, do I have the right to ask for more when nothing is technically wrong? And the more you don't ask, the more the relationship teaches you that you were never supposed to.
The next week, I started doing something I didn't announce. I stopped waiting for him. I'd come home and change into my pajamas without telling him about my day. I'd eat something small if he wasn't hungry. I'd go to bed when I was tired instead of timing myself to his. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't a test. It was the first time in months I felt in control of my own heart. He noticed in the way people notice a lamp turned off in a room they don't use often. "Everything okay?" he asked one night, standing near the doorway like he didn't want to step fully into the conversation. "Yeah," I said, "just tired." He nodded, relieved. "Same." And that was it. The relationship remained untouched, preserved, like a fragile object nobody wanted to admit was already cracked.
Avoidance can be mutual without being equal. One person avoids because they don't want to hurt you. The other avoids because they don't want to be hurt. And sometimes those two avoidances fit together so perfectly that the relationship can last a long time in a state of quiet deprivation.
I started sleeping earlier, but not deeply. I'd wake up when he came to bed, the mattress dipping, the blanket shifting between us. Sometimes he'd whisper, "Night," and I'd answer, "Night," like we were in separate rooms. Once, half asleep, he reached for my hand. It startled me, not because it was wrong, because it reminded me of how much I'd missed it. His fingers wrapped around mine for maybe 10 seconds. Then he let go and turned over. I lay there staring into the dark, holding the warmth he left behind like evidence. We didn't break up in one scene. There wasn't a decisive conversation where everything was said perfectly. There was just a slow move toward logistics. He started asking, "Do you need anything from the store?" I started answering with lists. He started saying, "Let me know what time you'll be home." I started replying with exact numbers. At some point, I realized we were communicating like a shared calendar. Then one night, I came home and the apartment smelled like lemon cleaner. He'd wiped down the counters. The place looked nice, controlled, like a showroom. He was standing by the sink, rinsing a sponge. "Hey," he said. I cleaned up a bit. "That's nice," I told him. "Thank you." He smiled, small pleased. "No problem." And I felt this sudden, quiet grief, because we sounded like two polite adults doing well after something ended. But nothing had officially ended.
Sometimes the relationship doesn't collapse. It simply transitions without discussion into something smaller, something manageable, something that doesn't ask either person to be seen too closely. It's not that anyone is the villain. It's that closeness takes attention, and attention is a choice people stop making when they feel safe enough to stop trying.
That night, I didn't sit on the couch. I stood in the hallway and looked at our shoes lined up by the door. 2 sets, neatly placed, like proof of togetherness. I tried to remember the last time he looked at me like he used to, like I was the point. I could remember it, but I couldn't find it in the present. So I said something small, because big words felt impossible. "I'm going to stay at my sister's this weekend," I told him. He paused, sponge in his hand, water running. "Oh," he said. "Okay, or what?" "I don't know," I said. And it was the most honest thing I'd said in weeks. "I just need to." He nodded slowly, like he was trying to be respectful of something he didn't understand. "Yeah," he said. "Okay, drive safe." Not, I'll miss you. Not, can we talk? Just drive safe. I nodded. I will. And he went back to rinsing the sponge, like the moment had been filed away neatly with the rest. At my sister's place, I slept in a room that smelled like laundry detergent and old books. The sheets were rougher than mine. The fan clicked on and off through the night, and I slept better than I had in months. In the morning, my phone buzzed. A message from him. Did you get there okay? I stared at it for a long time, because it was kind. It was responsible. It was polite. I typed back, yeah, thanks. Then I realized I couldn't remember the last text that made my chest feel warm.
When you're living inside polite silence, you start craving something you can't justify asking for. Not more attention, not more gifts, just aliveness. You start missing the version of the relationship where a message wasn't an update, it was an opening.
I went back after the weekend. The apartment looked the same. The lamp still gave off that warm glow. The air was a little stale, like it had been holding its breath. He was on the couch when I walked in. He muted the TV. Hey, he said. He sat up straighter. How was it? It was good, I said. He nodded. Good. And then there was this pause. Not a dramatic one. Just a blank space where something should have been. I waited to see if he'd ask anything real, if he'd move closer, if he'd touch my hand. He didn't. He just said, do you want to order something? Or did you eat? I looked at him, really looked, and felt the last thread in me loosen. Not anger, not hatred, just the acceptance that whatever we were no longer reaching. I ate, I said quietly. Okay, he said. Cool. And the TV came back on. Later that night, I brushed my teeth while he showered. The mirror was fogging at the edges. I could hear the water through the wall, steady and indifferent. When he came out, he said, sorry, did I use all the hot water? I shook my head. No, it's fine. He hesitated, like he might say something else. But then he just nodded and climbed into bed. I lay beside him and stared at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the faint blue from his phone screen when he checked it one last time. He whispered, night. I whispered back, night. And in the silence that followed, I understood something that didn't feel dramatic enough to be true. We hadn't become enemies. We'd become careful roommates who still shared a last name in our heads.
That's the soft ending most people don't talk about. The one where nothing is resolved because nothing is named. Where two people remain gentle and still lose each other. Because tenderness without intimacy becomes distance with good manners. Polite silence is how people stay too long without realizing they've already left emotionally. It's how love can end without anyone breaking a rule. And it's why the grief feels private. Because from the outside, everything looks calm.
I don't know when we'll finally say it out loud. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just keep living in fine until one of us needs a different life badly enough to risk being the one who ruins the calm. But I know this. When he says, excuse me, in our kitchen, I feel the distance like a draft. And I catch myself whispering sorry back, like I'm the guest in a home that used to be mine.